Hi everyone, welcome to episode 5 of my podcast. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Whadjuk Noongar people, the traditional and forever owners of the land on which I live, work and study, and pay my respects to Aboriginal people in general, as well in particular to elders, past, present and emerging. So today I thought that I would try and tackle a little bit of the topic of trauma and specifically healing from trauma. So a fairly significant portion of my personal growth journey in the last sort of couple of years has been about coming to terms with the trauma that I went through. And coming to a place of being able to forgive the person that hurt me, and also learning strategies to be able to let go of that trauma so that I'm not, constantly being weighed down by it. That doesn't mean that I still don't and won't get triggered. Triggers are one of those things like that will just pop up when you least expect it, and they can send you straight back into a place of extreme emotional turmoil. However, I feel like it's very important, as a woman who's been through a domestic violence relationship and has gotten out of that relationship, and for anyone who has had either acute or chronic trauma in their life, I feel like it's a really, really important thing to do as a part of your self-growth journey to start to come to terms with that trauma. And this can be a gradual thing. It should probably not all be done in one session. It probably could not be all be done in one session. And also, it's not something that you necessarily can tackle until you are in a certain steady, safe place where you no longer feel actively like you're being traumatized, B, where you have enough self-worth and belief in yourself that you can recognize that you absolutely did not deserve to be treated that way, that you absolutely did not bring the trauma upon yourself, you didn't ask for it, you didn't it wasn't your fault. You were an active participant in those events to a certain extent. However, I think that it's a mistake I think that there's two potential mistakes that people make. One is to just lay all the blame on the perpetrator of the violence or the trauma or the abuse, and to not fail to recognize your own involvement. Now, when I say that, that's not to say I'm not trying to victimize the victim. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to like say that victims of abuse had a choice, did anything wrong, could have done better, should have done better. Anyone who's been through serious, especially chronic trauma, knows that at the time when it's happening, you are absolutely, completely trapped, and you are doing everything that you can at the time to minimize the effects, to appease your trauma, you're the person who's traumatizing you. And in most cases, we do not believe in our rational minds that we deserve it. Sometimes our mind can play tricks on us, and especially if we're being abused by somebody who is very psychologically manipulative, they will have us all but convinced that the problem is with us and not with them. And I'm one of those people, I certainly started to question my own reality, really, my interpretation of events, my ability to perceive things accurately. I started to interpret started to question whether my memory recollection was accurate. I started to question whether things that I had done prior to the abuse, like either immediately prior to an abusive event, and also prior to the abuse really starting in a way that that I would come to recognize later as being like a period of chronic abuse. I started to question whether I in some way brought it all on myself, and that is, I do not believe that to be true for myself. I do not believe that to be true for anyone. We do play a part in the sense that the way that we respond, the way that because we are feeding, because an abuser is always looking to get something from the person that they've abused, and usually it's about power, but not always. So sometimes it's about sex. Sometimes, and look, sexual dominance and power are sort of the same thing. I say that way too much. I think it's important to recognize the person that we were in that moment and during those times. I do not, however, think that it is important, necessary, or even worthwhile to go back through graphic memory, detailed graphic memories of traumatic events and unpack them to the nth extent. I think that probably only just serves to re-traumatize us all over again. However, we need to recognize ourselves in that situation, because we need to heal that person. We need to, now that we are in a position to be able to say, look, you deserve better, like that wasn't okay, we need to look with great empathy and compassion and love at the person that we were then, and the things that we were doing and saying and how we were feeling, more importantly, and how the abuse was affecting us. We need to look at all of that, in order to be able to free ourselves from the trauma, and also to be able to really surrender to the fact that it was an ugly part of our life. It was a part of our life that we, will never revisit, hopefully. However, it was still us. That was us, that was me. Like I was, that was me who was being, like I said, I don't want to go into graphic details. But I that was still me. I was a very, very broken, very shattered shell of the me that sits here today. However, it was still me, and that girl needed love and support, and she needed a gentle, kind hand to reach out and say, hey, it's going to be okay. You don't deserve this. Just come with me. We'll make it. We'll sort it out. We'll make this better. And that's really what we want to do with this exercise. We want to take the time and first of all, I suggest that if you're going to try and go through a process of trauma unpacking and trauma, I guess trauma therapy for lack of a better word, on your own, I suggest that you do need a good chunk of time. Don't try and fit this in a half-hour slot between business meetings or anything. You need at least half a day. And don't do it on a day when you're not feeling great. Don't do it on a day when you're stressed, or on a day when you are feeling sad. Don't do it on a day when you're feeling exceptionally positive either. Because to be honest, like those days when when everything feels great and everything's going really well, you just kind of want to, you deserve to bask in those. You deserve those feelings. You deserve to feel like that. So you just want to bask in those feelings on those days, So I suggest that you pick first of all a time and a day when you are feeling okay, good even, and when you're feeling strong and stable, certainly when you're feeling safe, and when you are feeling like the emotions are no longer so raw that even just starting to revisit the idea or some of the concepts around the trauma you went through is going to cause you to completely break down. And it takes time to get to that point. It really does. It takes a lot of time to get to that point. I mean, when I say a lot of time, I got there fairly quickly. I did have the help of a professional counsellor that I saw at Centre Care, and I'll put a link to their phone number in the description. I don't know if they're in the eastern states as well, but they're definitely in Western Australia. There's a few others that you can go to as well for domestic violence counselling. There's probably more in the eastern states of Australia, I think, than there are in Western Australia. And there are some others in Western Australia as well, but I went to Centre Care, and I had one-on-one counselling with a counsellor there who was lovely, and this is while I was still in a relationship with my abuser. He was in jail. He was in jail for aggravated assault occasioning bodily harm against me. However, we were talking on the phone every day. We intended on being in a relationship once he got out. So it wasn't like I was done with the relationship when I was seeing the counsellor back then. But I was still able to go through a process of trauma therapy just by being in that situation where he'd been in jail for a while because he served 9 months for that sentence. So I was living on my own, had my own place. I'd started studying. I was doing heaps and heaps of art. Like, I was getting engaged with my community. I'd started to reach out, although not so much. My support network back then was a little bit limited, but I still had a couple of people in my support network that I could reach out to. The main thing is, like, I guess that I felt safe, and I felt, somewhat strong. Not as strong as I do today, but somewhat strong. I felt strong enough to start tackling it, and I'll be honest, look, the first couple of times that I tried, I wasn't ready. The first couple of times that I tried, exactly as I said before, like, as soon as I started to, like, think about just one of the many times when he assaulted me, I just broke down, immediately, and was just inconsolable. So you really, unfortunately, do need to wait until you're at a place where it's either been long enough, or you have got enough good stuff going on in your life, and you've built your self-esteem back up enough, and you have enough self-love and self-worth, and your self-growth journey has sort of, like, is on, you've gotten, you're getting somewhere with it. It's like you're not right at the start. You're on your way, in order to be able to do this effectively. So like I said, pick a day when you're feeling good. Pick a day when you've got the time, half a day, and then I suggest that you do the following things. First of all, get out your journal or whatever, or make a video or whatever, and just spend about 10 minutes reflecting on your personal growth, on the woman that you are today. Talk about her in the third person, if you like. Talk about the qualities that you have, which you admire in yourself, which you're proud of, any achievements that you're proud of. Talk about, like, your goals, if you have goals, and especially if you have plans that you're working towards. Talk about your your ability to step, to be moving forward with your plans. So things that you're proud of, and things that you're that make you, I guess, that give you a sense that you are really someone that is absolutely worthwhile. And look, everybody is worthwhile. My philosophical belief is that there is no organism in our ecological niche that has any more value, that is of any more value than any other. And I include in that everything from mammals, plants, birds, fish, insects, what am I missing? Bacteria and viruses, also trees, obviously, like plants, all of the natural environment. We are all part of a living, breathing organism, and we're interconnected, and we're all living together, sharing this niche, and nothing, no single thing or entity, being, whether, regardless of sentience or any other metric you want to put on it, is of any greater or lesser value than any other. We all just have different skills and qualities. We all just have different, things that we give back to the niche, which makes us compatible with the niche, and in the human kingdom, obviously, some of us have things that are of perceived higher value to other humans, and it's very unfortunate that in this material world, that we look up to people who have made a lot of money, and that is not to take away from their achievements. Someone like Mark Zuckerberg, what he achieved was phenomenal, really extraordinary. I would argue, however, that someone like Edward Snowden achieved something far more important and far more revolutionary and far braver and far more, makes him a far more worthy icon. But that's controversial, obviously. So spend about 10 minutes just reflecting on who you are today and what you're proud of about yourself today. And then get in your car if you've got a car, or if you don't have a car, get in an Uber, or if you can't afford an Uber, get on the bus and go to a place that you associate with a traumatic event that took place for you. Obviously, you don't have to go to the exact spot, especially not if it's a house that you are no longer living in. But just go to an area that is near to it and is familiar to you, and that you associate with that trauma. And the reason I recommend doing this is because, first of all, location can be a very powerful setting for us to begin to unpack trauma. By going back to the place where it happened, that can actually be a very powerful way to sort of start the process of unpacking. And secondly, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to live the rest of my life with a short list of suburbs of Perth that I can never go to, never go near, never live anywhere near, never even want to talk about, hear about, or anything like that, because I have so much trauma associated with them. I don't want that. I want to have a clean slate as much as I can. And so I did this. I went to several different locations, actually, to unpack trauma, based on specific things that had happened there. The first one was actually in Northbridge in Perth, Western Australia. One of them was in Maylands, Western Australia, where a lot of the trauma that I suffered, just some of it, really. And the third one was Belmont, which is a suburb of Perth. Go there, find a spot where you can sit down and you're not going to be interrupted, where you're not, in anyone's face. Just maybe take a blanket so you're comfortable. Like, you want to be comfortable, you want to wear comfy clothes, you want to take a thermos of tea or something. Like, you want to make it as pleasant an experience as you can for yourself. given that what you're going to be doing is going to be slightly unpleasant, you know, or potentially very unpleasant, you know. And try to not make it a place where there isn't a lot of people around, you know, because it's just uncomfortable, and the last thing you want is to be in the middle of trying to unpack trauma and then have well-meaning strangers coming over asking if you're okay and offering you tissues and things like that, you know. That, you know, you just want to be as much as you can on your own. So that's my advice. That's sort of the backdrop to my advice. Oh, and take with you self-soothing things. Like, I have this plush toy. This is Hootie. So I've had Hootie for about 4 years now, and the backstory about Hootie is that he was thrown out by somebody. We have this thing called Verge Psych Collection in WA. I don't know how common it is in other places, but basically it's just a day when it's about a week actually, roughly it goes over. And then there's one day when they come and collect all the stuff, you know, where households can just put all the stuff they don't want on the verge, and then the council will come along and pick it all up. You know, it's sort of like an alternative to like getting a skip bin from your council. Some councils have actually gone back over to the skip bin model because I guess they didn't like the fact that Verge Psych Collection was attracting a lot of verges, as we call them, of which I am, you know, guilty. You know, people who like will see that there's Verge Psych Collection going on in someone's suburb, and then they will drive ultra slow down the streets, like stopping at every second house to look through what people are throwing out, because people throw out good stuff, you know. And that old adage of, like, you know, one man's trash is another man's treasure is really very, very true. I know people who've gotten all sorts of amazing things from Verge Psych Collection. You know, I myself have gotten some pretty good stuff from Verge Psych Collection. You know, I've never really had the car capacity for it, but you know. But I did get Hootie. So Hootie had been thrown out by some people in a house near where I was living in West Perth, and they chucked him on the verge along with like just a bag of like just really bad men's polyester Hawaiian shirts and an old rusty barbecue. And so I saw Hootie and I picked him up and I took him home, and he was a bit busted up. He had about 10 centimetres where he'd torn open on one side. So I stitched him up, good as new, and I've had him ever since. And I had no idea that there was it was a children's cartoon. I mean, I probably could. I mean, if I'd thought about it, I probably would have figured that it was something like that. But a friend of mine, you know, came around not that long after I'd picked him up, and I said, "Oh, look, this is Hootie," and he was like, "Oh, I didn't say this is Hootie. I said, look what I got off the verge," and they said, "That's Hootie," and I said, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "It's a kids' TV show. It's Hootie and something," and I was like, "The Blowfish?" And they were like, "No," I said, "Kids TV show." And I was like, And I've still never seen the show. I don't even know if this owl is Hootie or if the other one is. But anyway, he was named Hootie that day. He's been called Hootie ever since. I love him to bits. I take him everywhere with me. If I'm staying in a hotel, I take him with me. If I'm going to a friend's house and I'm going to spend the night, I take him with me. Like, he's just the best. He's just the best cuddle toy. He's a pillow. He's a cushion. But, you know, and he's cute. And I think that, you know, you're never too old I think that the idea that, like, you know, that a 48-year-old woman having some sort of a plush toy is, you know, is somehow wrong is just dumb. I think that anyone can have one, and I think that, like, especially women who have been through trauma, having like having a plush toy that brings you comfort. I mean, every time I squeeze him, every time he makes me feel good. He's an instant feel good. He's like a drug-free instant feel good, you know? And my God, I mean, that is such a precious gift in this world. So anyway, so I took Hootie with me as well, you know, for comfort, and also he dries tears. You know, he's pretty effective actually. You know, you need to dry tears. If you forget to take tissues, don't forget to take tissues. Yeah. So you're all packed up, ready to go, prepped, and then you get to your destination. Find a quiet spot, sit on a blanket, take a journal or a notebook or a sketch pad, or if you'd like, you know, you can, you know, take your camera phone and you can record a video. But I would prefer if you went non-digital, just because, you know, you want to have your phone either on silent, you know, on do not disturb, out of the way, so that, you know, you're not being interrupted with, you know, people's dumb shit and stupid notifications and stuff, you know, because, you know, once you get started with this, you want to just run with it until it's done, you know. And then at that stage, then you're going to choose one abusive event that you have gone through to unpack. Now, it's up to you what you pick. I would suggest starting with one of the less traumatizing ones before you tackle the really traumatic ones. But it's up to you. And what you're going to do is you're going to try and put yourself back into the headspace of you in that moment, in those moments, at that time. And this is, and you know, and so really try and remember the fear, the trepidation, the anxiety, the uncertainty, the anger, the frustration, the disrespect, you know, how you felt so mistreated and also misheard, not listened to, how you felt so lonely and isolated, and hopeless. Often hopeless came up for me when I was doing these, you know, and just jot all that stuff down. You know, don't write a huge description of them, but just jot all of that stuff down as it comes to mind, and then sit and just try and meditate on those feelings and the events as they unfolded at a very superficial level. And what I mean by that, when I say that, is no fine details, no blow by blow, just the approximate things that happened, the approximate, the types of trauma, the level of trauma. It can be helpful actually to, you know, on a scale to rate these on a scale of 1 to 10, you know, physical violence, emotional abuse, mental abuse, psychological, verbal, all that kind of stuff. It can help just to, like, make a note out, out of 10 on each of the, for that particular event. And then once you have done that, you are going to try and have some empathy for your abuser. And when I say that, I'm not saying that you're going to believe that what he did was right. I'm in no way suggesting that. I'm just saying that remind yourself that this was a broken person, that they were broken too, that they were reacting out of maybe learned behavior from their childhood, maybe maybe they had been abused as a child, whatever it was. And the why is not important. That's another very important thing, is a lot of people spend so much time, like when they're sort of trying to unpack abuse and trauma, trying to answer the question of why me, why didn't he see me, why didn't he respect me, why didn't he love me, you'll never get answers for those questions. There are no answers for those questions, and it's not helpful. The why questions are not helpful at all. You just want to recognize the other person in that scenario just enough so that you can, on a very superficial level, say to them, okay, you did what you did, it wasn't okay, but I am okay now. And because I'm okay now, I choose to forgive you, and I choose to let this go. I choose to take the lessons that I need to from having gone through this trauma and leave the rest behind. And really try and feel yourself releasing all of those negative emotions and all of those feelings that you might have felt towards the perpetrator of the abuse. Really try and really try and just surrender those feelings. It's hard to describe, and it's a hard thing to do, and it takes a bit of practice, but you can get there. And when you do, the really great thing is that it means that, first of all, you're not walking around bearing grudges anymore. I don't bear a grudge against my abuser. I think that that our relationship was a disaster. I don't think he ever loved me. I think he is very sick, but I don't think he's a bad person, and I don't wish him any harm. I don't wish bad things for him. I just know that my life is better served without him in it. And that's where I'm at today with that. And it's because I'm at that place now where I can say that with conviction and mean it, and I know that there is no chance that I'm going to be caving in and unblocking his number and reaching out to him. There is just no way that I'm going to do that. And gosh, it took a long time to get there as well, because it took a long time. It took a long time for me to leave that relationship. It took a long time for me to, even after I left the relationship, it took a long time for me to finally realize and realize that I deserved better, and that he that he needed help, but that I was not capable of helping him. I was not the one to help him, and that he didn't want my help anyway unless it was money. So the purpose of the exercise is really just to acknowledge the trauma that you've been through, because it is a part of you, and it can become and to try to transform it from being like, you know, a bad memory and something that you are afraid to even acknowledge, to being something that you can talk about, maybe with people that you trust, to something that you can see as being integral to the person to building you towards to being the person that you are now. Because from adversity, always we build strength, you know, and so whilst we're not saying that we are grateful for the trauma that we've suffered, we are able to say that we accept that we are survivors of abuse, that we forgive our abuser, that we recognize that there will be ongoing effects of the trauma that we went through in our future. However, that we will continue to learn tools to handle the aftermath, the after effects of those trauma memories when they get triggered, because we do not want to be a slave to the trauma. We having come out of the abusive situation, you know, we do not want to be a slave to it anymore. We are no longer trapped in it, and we no longer want to be trapped by it. And so it's really important that we can really put it on the shelf in a place where we recognize it, where we can talk about it, like I said, in some detail, and where we can acknowledge how it has helped us to reshape ourselves into a stronger version of ourselves, you know. And so sort of towards the end of the exercise, then I just want you to look at the notes that you made about the person that you were when you were suffering the abuse, and all of the things that you wrote down or whatever spoke about that you said that you were feeling, and all of that, and then just compare that to the notes that you made before about the person that you are today. And then just with a really loving, kind, empathetic, sympathetic, soothing sort of approach, just tell your former self that it's okay now. Everything's okay now. You got through this. You did well. You didn't think you were doing well at the time. It didn't feel like it, but you did well. Like, you know, you got through it, and now you're ready to move on from it and leave it in the past. So, so I hope that this has been helpful. I sort of just ad-libbed it, and perhaps I should have, made some notes or done some research or something. I don't know. Be interested to get some comments, but I don't think anyone's watching my channel yet. But, and I'm going to definitely be interviewing some of my friends who've been through trauma related to mostly DV, as well, and about their healing journey, to just get their, their take on how they approached it and how they've coped, and also, discuss more resources that you can pull upon within the community to receive formalized sort of counseling and therapy for these things, so okay, I need to hug Hootie now. I hope everyone has a nice rest of the week. It's Wednesday, hump day. It's such a silly thing. I don't know why we say that. I bought a house, by the way, yesterday. Well, an apartment anyway. So I'm going to be moving house pretty soon. So that's pretty exciting. And things are going pretty well. Things are going pretty well at work. I should be starting back at work 3 days a week fairly shortly, and then I'm going to be back at uni full time. I'm enrolled in 4 units, but I think I'll probably just pare that back to 3 straight away, because 4 will be unmanageable, and I'm going to try and get 3 units done this semester, on top of that. So so it's going to be a pretty busy semester. I'll be pretty packed, but you better believe I'm still going to be making time for all of the things that matter the most, like self-care and my counselling and my 12-step meetings and my art, my hobbies, and just relaxing and looking after myself and all that kind of stuff as well. So we'll just see how it goes, fitting all of that stuff in. And you know what, if I have to only do 2 units this semester at uni, well, so be it. That's what happened last semester. I wound up only doing 2 units. So it, you can't afford to overload yourself. Maybe when you're in your early 20s, but even then, I don't recommend it. So anyway, all exciting stuff that's coming up, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Bye.